Hello there and welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about something you've lived with your entire life, but may have never truly stopped to feel. Not the clocks on the wall, not the schedules, deadlines, or calendars, but time as it exists when nothing is chasing you. Most of us move through our days believing we understand time. We measure it. We divide it into hours and years. We say it's running out or that it's moving too fast. But the truth is, science itself admits something surprising. We don't really know what time is. Physicists can measure how it bends. They can observe how it slows down. They can prove it behaves differently depending on where you are and how fast you're moving. But what time actually is, and why it flows the way it does, remains deeply uncertain. For example, astronauts aboard the International Space Station age just a little bit more slowly than people on Earth. The difference is tiny, but it's real. Time itself shifts based on motion and gravity. And that means time is not as solid or fixed as it feels. And somehow, that's comforting. Because if time isn't a rigid force pushing us forward, then maybe we don't have to push so hard either. Tonight isn't about mastering time or understanding every theory. It's about stepping out of the race for a while. About letting time loosen its grip, just enough for your thoughts to slow and your body to rest. You don't need to solve anything. You don't need to remember anything. Just allow these ideas to drift through your mind as gently as time itself does when we finally stop chasing it. Before we start, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Now plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's drift into this amazing topic together. There is a quiet moment that happens sometimes, usually without warning, when time suddenly stops feeling like it's chasing you. It might be late at night or early in the morning when the world feels still and your responsibilities seem far away. In those moments, time doesn't disappear, but it changes its tone. It no longer feels sharp or demanding. It feels softer, slower, and easier to sit with. Science tells us that this shift isn't imaginary. It's something your brain does naturally when pressure fades, and it's one of the first signs that your body and mind are beginning to relax. Most of the urgency we feel about time doesn't come from time itself. It comes from expectations layered on top of it. Deadlines, appointments, alarms, and habits all teach the brain to treat time as something that must be managed, protected, and defended. Over many years, this creates a constant background tension, even during moments when nothing urgent is actually happening. When that pressure is removed, even briefly, the brain loosens its grip. Time begins to feel wider, as if there's more of it available even though the clock hasn't changed at all. One reason this happens is because your brain doesn't measure time the way clocks do. Inside your mind, time is closely tied to attention. When you are under pressure, your attention narrows. You become focused on what comes next, what might go wrong, or what still needs to be done. This narrow focus makes time feel fast and urgent. But when pressure disappears, attention spreads out. You notice small details, gentle sensations, and quiet thoughts. With more attention given to the present moment, time feels slower and more spacious. This is why moments of calm often feel longer than moments of stress. A single quiet evening can feel full and satisfying, while a busy day can feel like it vanished before you had a chance to notice it. The difference isn't the number of hours. It's the way your mind experiences those hours. When there's no rush, your brain records more information. More memories are formed, and that creates the feeling that time is moving at a gentler pace. Another interesting thing happens when urgency fades. Your body begins to shift out of a state of readiness. During stressful or busy periods, your nervous system stays alert even when you're resting. Muscles hold subtle tension, breathing stays shallow, and the heart works a little harder. All of this signals to the brain that time matters, that something important might happen at any moment. When that alertness fades, your body sends a different message. It says that nothing is required right now. This physical relaxation changes how time feels almost immediately. Breathing plays a quiet but powerful role in this process. Under pressure, breaths tend to be quick and shallow. This pattern is linked to the feeling that time is short. When breathing slows naturally, without effort, the brain receives signals that the environment is safe. As breathing deepens, the sense of urgency softens. Time begins to feel less like a resource that can run out and more like a gentle flow you're floating along with. There's also a strong connection between urgency and future thinking. When time feels demanding, the mind spends most of its energy looking ahead. What's next? What's later? What hasn't been done yet? This future focus creates the sensation that time is pushing forward, pulling you along whether you're ready or not. When pressure disappears, the mind drifts back toward the present. Thoughts become slower, less structured. You might notice yourself thinking about simple things or nothing at all. In these moments, time feels less directional. It's no longer rushing toward the future. It's simply happening. Memory also plays a role in how urgent time feels. When your days are filled with similar tasks and repeated routines, the brain compresses those experiences. Looking back, large stretches of time seem to disappear. This can create the feeling that life is speeding up. When pressure drops and routines break, even slightly, the brain records more distinct moments. Time feels fuller, not because there is more of it, but because it is being noticed more clearly. This is one reason vacations or quiet weekends often feel longer than regular work weeks, even when they're shorter. Without the usual pressure and repetition, your brain opens up. It notices sounds, light, movement, and stillness. Each moment becomes its own small experience, and time stretches gently around them. This same process can happen in much smaller ways, even during an ordinary evening when you allow urgency to fade. There's a comforting truth hidden inside all of this. Time itself is not impatient. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. Those feelings come from the way we interact with it. When the pressure lifts, time reveals a different personality, one that is steady, quiet, and surprisingly forgiving. You don't have to do anything special to access this version of time. You simply have to stop pushing against it. As the mind begins to rest, the brain releases fewer stress hormones. This chemical shift further softens the sense of urgency. Thoughts slow down. The constant mental checking of the clock fades into the background. You may not even notice this happening at first. It often feels like a gentle unwinding, like loosening a knot that's been there for years without you realizing it. Interestingly, children experience time very differently from adults, largely because they feel less urgency. Without long-term schedules or constant future planning, their attention stays anchored in the present. This is why time feels slower in childhood memories. It's not because time was different back then. It's because the mind was. When adults allow themselves moments without pressure, even briefly, the experience of time begins to resemble that early sense of openness again. Another subtle factor is control. When we feel that time controls us, urgency increases. When we feel that we are allowed to move within time freely, urgency fades. Letting go of control, even for a short while, can feel uncomfortable at first. But once the body realizes that nothing bad happens when control softens, relaxation deepens. Time no longer feels like an opponent. It becomes a companion. As you rest here, listening, there is nothing waiting for you. No clock you need to watch. No place you need to be. This absence of demand gives your mind permission to slow its internal pace. The more permission it receives, the less urgent time feels. Thoughts stretch up. Pauses feel natural instead of awkward. Silence becomes comfortable. This gentle slowing isn't something you need to force. It happens naturally when conditions allow it. Just like water settles when it's left undisturbed, your perception of time settles when pressure is removed. You may notice that moments begin to blend together softly, without sharp edges. This is a sign that your brain is shifting into a calmer rhythm. Even your sense of self changes slightly when urgency fades. Instead of feeling like someone moving through time, you begin to feel like someone resting within it. There is no race, no finish line, no need to measure progress. There is just the experience of being here, in this moment, with time flowing gently around you, unbothered by expectations, steady and patient, allowing your thoughts to slow as naturally as your breathing, as the sense of urgency continues to dissolve into something quieter, something softer, something that feels safe enough to stay with for a while longer, as the journey continues onward without needing to rush at all. As we move through life, many people notice a quiet, almost unsettling feeling. Years that once felt long now seem to slip by with surprising speed. Birthdays arrive sooner than expected. Seasons blur together. Memories feel closer than they should. This sensation is so common that it's often accepted without question, but science offers a gentle explanation for why time feels faster as we grow older, and it has less to do with clocks than with how the mind records experience. When we are young, nearly everything is new. New places, new faces, new emotions, and new routines fill our days. The brain pays close attention to novelty because new experiences require learning. This heightened attention creates richer memories, and rich memories make time feel longer in hindsight. As we age, life naturally becomes more familiar. Routines settle in. Days begin to resemble one another. When fewer new memories are formed, the brain compresses time, making long periods feel short when we look back on them. This doesn't mean life is moving faster. It means it's being recorded differently. The brain doesn't store time itself. It stores moments. When moments feel similar, they blend together. Weeks pass, but only a few moments stand out, giving the impression that time has accelerated. This is why a busy week filled with repetitive tasks can feel like it vanished, while a single unusual day can feel full and expansive. Another quiet factor is proportional time. When you are 5 years old, 1 year represents a large portion of your life. When you are 50, 1 year is a much smaller fraction. The mind doesn't calculate this consciously, but the effect is felt emotionally. Each year carries less perceived weight, making time feel lighter and quicker as it passes. This proportional shift is one reason childhood summers seemed endless, while adult summers seem to arrive and leave almost unnoticed. Routine plays a powerful role here. The brain is efficient by design. When it recognizes patterns, it conserves energy by paying less attention. Driving a familiar route, completing daily chores, or following a regular schedule requires little conscious thought. While this efficiency is useful, it reduces the number of distinct memories created. Fewer memory markers mean less mental evidence that time has passed, even though it has. Emotion also shapes how time feels. Strong emotions slow time down in the moment because the brain is fully engaged. Fear, excitement, curiosity, and awe stretch perception. As we age, life often becomes more emotionally regulated. Fewer emotional spikes occur, and while this brings stability, it also smooths out time. Without emotional contrast, days feel flatter, and flatter days feel faster. Sleep patterns change with age as well, subtly influencing time perception. Deep, restorative sleep helps the brain process and store memories. As sleep becomes lighter or more fragmented, fewer memories are fully formed. This can make days feel less distinct and time feel compressed. It's not that experiences aren't happening. It's that they aren't being deeply recorded. Attention is another quiet player. Modern life trains the mind to split focus across many small tasks. Notifications, screens, and constant information pull attention away from the present moment. When attention is scattered, experiences are only partially absorbed. Partial experiences create weaker memories, and weaker memories shorten time in retrospect. This effect often increases with age as responsibilities multiply. There is also a comforting truth hidden in this experience. Time feeling faster does not mean life is slipping away unnoticed. It means the mind has become familiar with living. Familiarity can be softened. When we gently reintroduce novelty, attention, and presence into our days, time naturally begins to stretch again. A small change in routine, a moment of curiosity, or a pause to notice details can create new memory anchors. Even slowing down mentally can help. When we stop rushing from one thought to the next, the mind creates space. In that space, moments gain weight again. Time regains texture. The years don't slow down, but our experience of them becomes fuller. As you rest with these ideas, there's no need to judge the speed of your own life. Time hasn't betrayed you. Your mind has simply adapted. And adaptation can always be adjusted, gently, without effort, allowing moments to feel richer again as attention settles, memory deepens, and the quiet flow of time continues in its own steady way, moving forward while still leaving room to notice where you are right now, breathing easily, letting the mind wander without urgency as the journey naturally carries on. Most of the time, we think of clocks as something outside of us. They hang on walls, sit on nightstands, glow on phone screens. We glance at them to see where we are in the day, how late it's getting, or how much longer we need to wait. But long before clocks existed, and long before we ever learned how to read them, the brain already had its own way of keeping time. Quietly, automatically, and without asking for our attention, your brain has been tracking the passage of time every moment of your life. This internal sense of time doesn't feel like counting seconds. It feels more like rhythm, a subtle awareness of before and after, of now and what comes next. You don't notice it working, just like you don't notice your heartbeat unless something changes. But it's always there, helping you move through the day, guiding when you feel hungry, alert, tired, or ready to rest. The brain's internal clock isn't one single thing. It's a gentle collaboration between many systems, all working together to create the feeling that time is passing. One of the most important influences on this internal clock is light. Long before alarms and schedules, the rising and setting of the sun shaped human life. Your brain still responds to light in much the same way it always has. Special cells in the eyes send signals directly to deep parts of the brain, letting it know whether it's morning, afternoon, or night. This information helps set your daily rhythm, influencing body temperature, hormone release, and energy levels. You don't have to think about it. Your brain simply responds, adjusting its sense of time based on the world around you. This is why daylight feels different from artificial light, and why evenings often bring a natural sense of slowing down. As light fades, the brain begins preparing for rest, gently shifting your internal timing. When this rhythm is respected, time feels smooth and predictable. When it's disrupted, time can feel confusing, stretched, or compressed. This internal clock doesn't just tell you when to wake or sleep. It shapes how long moments feel and how easily you move from one part of the day to another. Another quiet way the brain tracks time is through change. The brain is especially sensitive to things starting and stopping, sounds beginning and ending, movements slowing down or speeding up. These changes help the mind measure duration without counting. If nothing changes, time feels vague. If many things change quickly, time feels busy and full. This is why waiting in silence can feel strange, and why a lot happening at once can make time feel dense, even if only a short period has passed. Your brain is constantly comparing what it expects to happen with what actually happens. When events unfold as expected, time feels smooth. When expectations are disrupted, time stands out. This process happens automatically, without effort. It's part of how the brain organizes experience. Even when you're relaxed, this quiet tracking continues, creating a soft sense of flow rather than sharp awareness. Memory plays a gentle but important role in the brain's timing system. As moments pass, the brain links them together into a continuous story. This story gives time its shape. When memory formation is strong, time feels more detailed. When memory formation is light, time feels thinner. This doesn't mean you're forgetting what happened. It means the brain is choosing how much detail to keep. During calm or repetitive moments, fewer details are needed. Time still moves forward, but it leaves a lighter trace. The brain also uses the body as a reference point for time. Heart rate, breathing, and movement all provide signals that help the brain sense duration. Faster rhythms often make time feel quicker. Slower rhythms soften the experience of time. This is why calm breathing can make time feel less urgent, and why physical relaxation often brings a sense of spaciousness. The body and brain are constantly communicating, shaping how time is felt rather than measured. There is also a part of the brain that helps sequence events, allowing you to understand what came first and what came next. This sequencing doesn't rely on numbers or clocks. It relies on order, one thought following another, one sensation giving way to the next. This ordered flow creates the feeling of continuity. Even when you're not paying attention, the brain maintains this sense of sequence, ensuring that time doesn't feel chaotic. Interestingly, this internal clock is flexible. It adjusts based on emotional state. When you feel calm, the clock relaxes. When you feel stressed, it tightens. Stress hormones sharpen attention and increase alertness, making time feel more pressing. When those hormones fade, the internal clock softens its grip. Time feels less demanding, more forgiving. This flexibility is a feature, not a flaw. It allows the brain to respond to changing situations. Another subtle influence is predictability. When the brain can predict what will happen next, it spends less energy tracking time closely. Time fades into the background. When the future is uncertain, the brain monitors time more actively. This is why waiting for news can make minutes feel long, while a familiar routine makes hours pass quietly. The brain's internal clock adjusts its sensitivity based on how much attention time needs at that moment. Sleep has a powerful effect on this system as well. During sleep, especially deep sleep, the brain reorganizes its sense of time. Memories are sorted, connections are strengthened, and unnecessary details are released. This overnight process helps reset the internal clock, preparing it for the next day. When sleep is restful, time the next day often feels smoother. When sleep is disturbed, time can feel disjointed or rushed. Age also gently influences the internal clock, not by breaking it, but by refining it. With experience, the brain becomes more efficient at predicting patterns. It needs less active monitoring, which can make time feel like it's moving more quietly. This efficiency isn't a loss. It's a shift. The internal clock becomes more subtle, less intrusive, allowing attention to rest more easily in the present. There is something reassuring about knowing that you don't have to manage time consciously. You don't have to count, track, or control it for it to work. Your brain does that for you, moment by moment, adjusting gently as conditions change. Even now, as you listen, your internal clock is active, but it isn't demanding anything from you. It's simply keeping things in order, allowing thoughts to drift naturally from one to the next. When you're relaxed, the internal clock doesn't disappear. It becomes quieter. It steps back, letting experience unfold without constant reminders of before and after. This is often when people say they lose track of time. What they really mean is that the brain has decided time doesn't need close supervision right now. Everything is safe. Everything is flowing as it should. This quiet tracking continues even as the mind wanders. Thoughts rise and fall. Sensations come and go. Each one takes its place in a gentle sequence, creating the feeling of continuity without effort. The brain doesn't rush this process. It doesn't need to. It simply maintains the rhythm, like a soft background pulse that keeps everything moving forward without pressure. As your body rests and your attention loosens, the internal clock aligns with slower rhythms. Breathing deepens. Muscles release. Thoughts lengthen. Time doesn't stop, but it stretches. It becomes something you move through rather than something that moves you. This is one of the brain's most comforting abilities, to adjust its sense of time in response to safety and calm. You don't have to understand every part of this process for it to work. You've been using your internal clock your entire life without instruction. Tonight, as you listen, it continues quietly in the background, keeping track without counting, guiding without pushing, allowing each moment to arrive and pass in its own gentle way, maintaining order without urgency, letting the experience of time soften naturally as awareness drifts, sensations blend, and the steady rhythm carries on without needing to be noticed at all. Imagine waking up in a world where there are no clocks, no glowing numbers on your phone, no ticking hands on the wall, no reminders telling you where you should be or how late it's getting. Morning doesn't arrive because an alarm says it has. It arrives because the light changes, the air feels different, and your body begins to stir on its own. In this world, time still exists, but it no longer stands in front of you demanding attention. It moves quietly in the background, like a slow river you're floating on rather than swimming against. For most of human history, life was lived this way. People didn't organize their days by minutes and seconds. They followed natural cues. The rising sun, the length of shadows, the temperature of the air. Meals happened when hunger arrived. Rest came when the body grew tired. Without clocks, time was felt rather than measured. And when time is felt instead of measured, it carries a very different emotional tone. One of the first things that changes when clocks disappear is the sense of urgency. Without numbers counting down, there is no constant reminder that time is being used up. The brain no longer needs to track how much is left. Instead, it pays attention to what is happening right now. This shift alone can create a surprising feeling of mental space. Thoughts slow down. Decisions feel less pressured. Even simple activities feel fuller because there's no background tension urging you to move on. Without schedules, the body's natural rhythms become more noticeable. Hunger arrives gradually instead of being delayed until a certain hour. Tiredness shows itself gently rather than being overridden by obligation. This allows the brain to reconnect with signals it has learned to ignore. Over time, this reconnection creates a sense of trust between the mind and the body. Time becomes something you move with, not something you have to manage. Another quiet change happens in how memory forms. When days are divided by strict schedules, the brain often records them as blocks. Work time, free time, sleep time. These blocks can blend together, especially when they repeat. Without clocks, experiences flow more naturally from one into the next. The brain notices transitions more clearly. Morning turning into afternoon, activity easing into rest. These gradual shifts create richer memories, which can make time feel longer and more satisfying when you look back on it. Without clocks, social interaction changes too. Conversations aren't cut short because it's time to leave. Silence isn't rushed because there's somewhere else to be. People speak until they're finished. They listen until the moment feels complete. This creates deeper connection and a stronger sense of presence. When you're fully present, time naturally stretches. It no longer feels like something slipping away. It feels like something you're inside of. The idea of productivity also changes. Without schedules, there's no pressure to fill every moment. Activity happens when energy is available. Rest happens when it's needed. This rhythm often leads to more sustainable effort, even if less is done in a single day. The brain doesn't feel constantly evaluated by the clock, so stress levels drop. With less stress, the perception of time softens further, creating a feedback loop of calm. Nature operates entirely without clocks. Plants don't rush to grow. Animals don't check the time before resting. They respond to light, temperature, and internal signals. When humans spend time in natural environments, they often report losing track of time. This isn't distraction, it's alignment. The brain temporarily shifts into a more natural timing system, one that prioritizes rhythm over precision. Even creativity changes without clocks. Ideas are allowed to develop at their own pace. There's no deadline cutting them short or forcing them forward. This often leads to deeper thinking and more satisfying outcomes. The brain feels free to wander, explore, and return when it's ready. Wandering thought is one of the mind's most restorative states, and it thrives in the absence of time pressure. Sleep also becomes more natural without clocks. Instead of forcing sleep to happen at a certain hour, The body eases into it when conditions are right. This often leads to deeper rest and a smoother transition between wakefulness and sleep. When the brain doesn't feel rushed to fall asleep, it lets go more easily. Time fades from awareness, replaced by a gentle sense of drifting. Without clocks, there's less comparison. No checking how long something took. No measuring yourself against expectations. This reduces self-judgment, which is one of the biggest sources of mental tension. When judgment fades, relaxation deepens. And when relaxation deepens, time feels less sharp and more forgiving. Of course, modern life requires schedules. But even imagining life without clocks can have a calming effect. The brain responds to imagination almost as strongly as it does to experience. When you picture a world without time pressure, your nervous system begins to mirror that calm. Breathing slows. Muscles release. The internal clock softens its grip. In moments like this, listening quietly, you are already stepping into a version of time without clocks. There's no need to know how long you've been here or how long remains. The experience unfolds on its own. Thoughts come and go without needing to be tracked. Sensations rise and fade naturally. Time, when stripped of numbers, becomes something simple again. A sequence of moments. A gentle flow. A feeling rather than a measurement. The mind doesn't resist it. It rests inside it. And in that resting, space opens up. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to simply be, allowing moments to continue unfolding one after another, without being counted, without being hurried, as awareness drifts comfortably within the quiet rhythm that carries everything forward, steadily and patiently, without asking anything in return. When you begin to feel overwhelmed by how fast life seems to move, it can help to widen your view beyond human schedules and expectations. Nature offers a very different relationship with time, one that doesn't hurry and never apologizes for moving slowly. Trees, mountains, oceans, and skies all exist within time, but they do not experience it as pressure. They respond to cycles, rhythms, and change so gradual that urgency has no place. Simply thinking about this difference can bring a sense of relief, as if your own sense of time is allowed to loosen when placed beside something so patient. Consider a tree standing quietly in a forest. It doesn't wake up in the morning thinking about how much it needs to grow that day. Growth happens when conditions allow it, when sunlight reaches its leaves, when water moves through the soil, when seasons shift in their own steady way. A tree measures time not in hours or years, but in rings, each one marking a season of life. Some years leave thick rings, others thin, depending on rain, warmth, and rest. Time, for a tree, is a story written slowly, layer by layer, without rush or regret. What's remarkable is that trees can live for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years, yet they never hurry toward that future. They exist fully in the present conditions. When winter comes, growth pauses. When spring arrives, it resumes. There is no resistance to waiting. This natural acceptance of pause is something humans often struggle with, yet it's built into the living world. When we observe it, even from a distance, our nervous system begins to recognize that waiting does not mean failing. It simply means resting until the right moment returns. Mountains offer an even wider view of time. From a human perspective, mountains seem permanent, unmoving, almost eternal. But over long stretches of time, they are constantly changing. Wind wears them down grain by grain. Water carves paths through their sides. Ice expands and contracts, shaping them slowly. These changes are so gradual that they escape everyday notice. Mountains don't experience time as a sequence of moments. They exist within time as a slow transformation, one that unfolds over millions of years. Standing near a mountain can shift the way time feels in the body. Problems that seemed urgent often feel smaller. Deadlines lose their sharp edges. The brain responds to scale, and when that scale expands, urgency shrinks. This isn't imagination. It's perspective. The mind naturally recalibrates when it encounters something that moves so slowly it makes human time feel brief and light. Oceans experience time through movement rather than measurement. Waves rise and fall endlessly, guided by wind, gravity, and the pull of the moon. Each wave exists for only a moment, yet the ocean itself remains. This balance between constant motion and lasting presence is deeply calming to observe. The ocean doesn't try to hold onto each wave. It allows them to come and go. Time, in this sense, is not something to be controlled. It's something to flow through. Tides offer another lesson in patience. They arrive and retreat on their own schedule, not ours. Coastal life has always adapted to this rhythm rather than trying to change it. This natural timing reminds us that not everything responds to human planning. Some things unfold when they are ready, and forcing them only creates resistance. When we align ourselves with slower rhythms, stress begins to fade. Even rocks and soil experience time in ways that feel almost unimaginable. A single stone may have been shaped by countless seasons of rain, heat, and pressure. It doesn't remember these changes, yet it carries their history within its form. Time leaves marks, but it does not rush to leave them. This quiet accumulation shows that lasting change often happens without effort or awareness. Nature also experiences time through cycles rather than straight lines. Day follows night. Seasons repeat. Life emerges, fades, and returns again. These cycles bring predictability without rigidity. There is movement, but there is also return. This circular sense of time can feel comforting compared to the human idea of time as something constantly moving forward, never coming back. In nature, nothing is truly lost. It changes form, then becomes part of something else. Animals live entirely within this cyclical time. They respond to daylight, temperature, and instinct. They don't worry about the future beyond what they need to survive. A bird builds its nest when conditions are right. A bear rests when food is scarce. There is no anxiety about wasted time. There is only response. This simplicity reduces mental strain and keeps attention grounded in the present moment. When humans spend time in natural settings, something similar begins to happen internally. Heart rate slow. Breathing deepens. Thoughts lose their urgency. Studies have shown that even short exposure to natural environments can lower stress hormones. This biological response suggests that our bodies remember a time when human life moved in closer rhythm with the natural world. Time, then, was not a resource to manage but an environment to live within. Weather also teaches patience. Storms pass when they pass. Clouds gather and disperse without concern for plans. Rain falls when conditions allow. There is no sense of inconvenience. This acceptance can feel freeing. It reminds us that not everything needs immediate resolution. Some things resolve themselves when given enough time and space. Nature never multitasks. A river flows. A tree grows. A mountain stands. Each process unfolds fully, without distraction. This single-minded presence allows time to stretch naturally. When we attempt to do many things at once, time feels fragmented. When we focus on one thing, time becomes whole again. Nature models this kind of attention effortlessly. There is also no judgment in how nature uses time. A long winter is not seen as wasted. A quiet season is not considered unproductive. Rest is as natural as growth. This lack of judgment is deeply soothing to the human mind, which is often trained to measure worth by output. When we observe nature, we are reminded that simply existing is enough. Even decay in nature is unhurried. Leaves fall and slowly break down into soil. Fallen trees return to the earth over decades. Nothing is rushed out of existence. Everything is allowed to complete its cycle. This gentle pace helps soften our fear of time passing. It shows that endings are not abrupt. They are gradual transitions. As you imagine these natural rhythms, your own sense of time may begin to widen. There is no need to match the speed of a clock. You are allowed to move at the pace of breathing, at the pace of listening. In this moment, time does not demand anything from you. It simply holds you, the way the ocean holds its waves, the way the earth holds its mountains, allowing each moment to arrive when it's ready, linger as long as it needs, and fade without urgency, as awareness continues to drift gently alongside the quiet, steady patience that nature has always known. When we think about time slowing down, we usually imagine it as a feeling. A quiet afternoon that seems to stretch on. A peaceful moment that lingers longer than expected. But far beyond Earth, deep in the vastness of space, time doesn't just feel slower. In some very real and measurable ways, it actually is. And the most calming part is that this slow cosmic time isn't dramatic or chaotic. It unfolds gently, steadily, and without any sense of urgency, offering a perspective so wide that everyday worries begin to feel surprisingly small. In deep space, far from the pull of planets and stars, motion itself changes. Objects drift rather than rush. There is no air to push against, no friction to slow things down abruptly. A spacecraft coasts forward not because it's trying to get somewhere quickly, but because nothing is stopping it. This smooth, effortless movement is one of the reasons time behaves differently in space. Speed and gravity both influence how time passes, and in the quiet openness between celestial bodies, both are experienced in their purest forms. One of the most fascinating discoveries of modern science is that time does not pass at the same rate everywhere. It depends on how fast you're moving and how strong gravity is around you. This isn't science fiction. It's something we've measured again and again. Clocks placed in space tick slightly differently than clocks on Earth. The difference is small, but it's real. Time itself stretches and relaxes depending on where you are in the universe. Astronauts orbiting Earth experience this gentle slowing firsthand. As they move quickly around the planet, time for them passes just a tiny bit more slowly than it does for people on the ground. Over the course of a mission, the difference adds up to fractions of a second, nothing anyone would notice day to day. But the idea behind it is profound. Time is flexible. It responds to motion and gravity like a soft fabric, stretching quietly without resistance. Farther out in space, where gravity weakens and distances grow vast, this effect becomes even more pronounced. Near massive objects like stars or black holes, time slows dramatically compared to distant regions of space. But even in the emptiest areas, where gravity is faint and movement is gentle, time takes on a calmer quality. It's not racing forward. It's unfolding at its own pace, untouched by schedules or deadlines. What's comforting about this is that the universe itself is not in a hurry. Galaxies take billions of years to form and change. Stars are born, shine, and fade over timescales so long they're hard to imagine. From this cosmic perspective, human lifetimes are brief flickers, yet they are fully contained within a universe that has all the time it needs. Nothing is being rushed toward an ending. Light itself carries the story of slow cosmic time. When we look at distant stars, we are seeing light that began its journey millions or even billions of years ago. That light has been traveling steadily, uninterrupted, through space, unaffected by human history or concerns. In a way, space allows time to travel, to drift forward endlessly, carrying information across unimaginable distances without haste. There are regions of space known as cosmic voids, vast areas with very little matter at all. In these places, galaxies are sparse and movement is minimal. These voids are some of the quietest regions in the universe. Time there is not shaped by frequent interactions or collisions. It simply continues, smooth and undisturbed. Imagining these empty stretches can bring a sense of deep calm, as if time itself is resting. Even the expansion of the universe happens slowly. Space itself is stretching, carrying galaxies away from one another, but the process is so gradual that it took careful observation to discover it at all. This expansion doesn't feel like motion in the everyday sense. It feels more like a gentle opening, a steady widening that has been happening for billions of years without pause. Another remarkable thing about time and space is how predictable it becomes on large scales. While human schedules change from day to day, cosmic events follow rhythms that remain stable for eons. Orbits repeat, stars pulse, galaxies rotate. These slow, reliable patterns create a sense of order that isn't rushed or pressured. Time becomes a backdrop rather than a taskmaster. When scientists talk about time dilation, they often use equations and measurements. But at its heart, the idea is simple. Time is not fixed. It adapts. It responds to the universe around it. And in the quiet depths of space, where forces are balanced and motion is smooth, time reveals its most patient side. Thinking about this can soften the way we relate to our own time. If time itself can slow down, stretch, and adapt, then perhaps our experience of it doesn't need to be rigid either. The universe isn't counting seconds. It isn't worried about running out. It exists comfortably within enormous spans of time, allowing everything to happen when it's ready. Even now, as you listen, Earth is moving through space at incredible speed. The planet spins. It orbits the sun. The sun moves through the galaxy. The galaxy drifts among countless others. All of this motion is happening quietly, without sensation, without urgency. Time flows through it all, adjusting gently, keeping everything in balance. There's something deeply reassuring in knowing that time is not a narrow path we're racing down. It's a wide landscape we're moving through together. In space, that landscape is vast and open, free from sharp edges. When we imagine ourselves within it, our own sense of time often begins to relax. Astronauts often describe a feeling of awe when looking back at Earth from space. Part of that feeling comes from perspective, but part of it comes from time. Seeing the planet as a whole, suspended in darkness, makes human timelines feel lighter. Problems that once felt urgent lose their grip. Time feels generous again. Even the silence of space contributes to this sense of slow time. Without sound, without constant signals, there is nothing to mark the passing of moments in a familiar way. Time becomes abstract, less defined. It's not counted. It's experienced as continuity, as existence itself unfolding. In deep space, nothing demands immediate attention. There are no alarms, no reminders. Just motion, light, gravity, and the steady passage of time adapting to its surroundings. This is time at its most neutral, free from expectation. As you imagine drifting there, far from Earth's schedules, you may notice your own thoughts beginning to slow. The mind responds to scale. When the scale grows vast, the internal sense of urgency naturally fades. There is room to breathe, room to rest. Time in deep space doesn't rush toward the future. It doesn't cling to the past. It simply continues, patient and untroubled, carrying stars, planets, and light along its path. And in that slow, steady flow, there is a quiet invitation to let your own sense of time soften as well, to allow moments to stretch gently, to feel less counted and more held, as awareness drifts onward within the same calm rhythm that guides the universe itself, unhurried, expansive, and endlessly at ease. Waiting has a reputation it doesn't fully deserve. For many people, the word itself brings up images of impatience, boredom, or frustration. Waiting is often described as wasted time, as something standing between you and what you want. But when you look at waiting more closely, both emotionally and scientifically, a quieter truth begins to appear. Waiting, under the right conditions, can feel deeply peaceful. It can become a form of rest, not a delay, and the brain is actually wired to experience it that way when pressure is removed. The discomfort we usually associate with waiting doesn't come from the act of waiting itself. It comes from expectation. When the mind believes something should already be happening, every passing moment feels like resistance. The brain becomes alert, scanning for progress, measuring time closely. But when expectation softens, waiting changes its character. The same stretch of time that once felt tense can suddenly feel open and calm. One reason waiting can feel peaceful is that it naturally slows the body. When there is nothing immediate to do, the nervous system has an opportunity to step out of its constant readiness. Heart rate eases. Breathing becomes deeper and more regular. Muscles that were subtly engaged begin to relax. This physical shift sends a message to the brain that the environment is safe, that there is no need to rush. Time begins to feel less sharp and more gentle. There is also a mental shift that happens during waiting. Without tasks demanding attention, the mind often drifts into a softer state of awareness. Thoughts become less linear. Instead of moving quickly from one idea to the next, the mind wanders, revisits memories, or settles into simple observation. This wandering is not laziness. It's one of the brain's natural restorative modes. In this state, time feels less structured and more spacious. Interestingly, the brain treats waiting differently depending on how it's framed. When waiting is seen as a problem to solve, stress hormones increase. When waiting is seen as a pause, those same hormones decrease. The situation may be identical, but the experience changes completely. This shows how powerful perception is in shaping how time feels. There's a reason people often feel calm while waiting in certain settings, like watching waves, sitting by a window, or listening to quiet music. In these moments, waiting isn't empty. It's filled with gentle sensory input. The brain stays lightly engaged without being overstimulated. This balance creates a soothing rhythm where time flows without being noticed. Waiting can also feel peaceful because it removes decision-making. Much of mental fatigue comes from constant choices, even small ones. When you're waiting, there's nothing to decide. You're simply allowing time to pass. This absence of choice gives the mind a break. It doesn't need to plan or evaluate. It can rest. Another calming aspect of waiting is that it shifts focus away from outcomes. When you're actively working towards something, the mind is often fixed on results. During waiting, the outcome is temporarily out of reach. This can be uncomfortable at first, but once accepted, it brings relief. You're no longer responsible for making something happen in that moment. You're allowed to just be. Waiting also slows the internal sense of time. When the brain isn't tracking progress toward a goal, it pays less attention to the clock. Time becomes less segmented. Minutes blend together softly. This is why waiting can sometimes feel like it passes quickly when you're relaxed, even though nothing much is happening. There's a biological reason for this. The brain measures time partly by change. When little changes, time becomes less distinct. This can feel unsettling in stressful waiting, but in calm waiting, it feels soothing. The absence of change becomes a kind of stillness the brain can settle into. Culturally, waiting is often framed as something to endure. But in many traditions, waiting is seen as meaningful. Seasons are waited through. Growth is waited for. Healing is waited on. These processes can't be rushed, and trying to rush them only creates tension. When waiting is aligned with natural processes, it feels purposeful rather than empty. Sleep itself is a form of waiting. You wait for consciousness to fade. You wait for dreams to come. Trying to force sleep rarely works. Allowing it, waiting for it gently, is what brings rest. This shows how waiting can be an active form of relaxation rather than passivity. Another reason waiting can feel peaceful is that it reduces self-pressure. When nothing is expected of you, you are temporarily released from performance. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to improve anything. This freedom allows the mind to soften and the body to settle more deeply. Waiting also invites awareness of the present moment. Without future tasks pulling attention forward, the senses come into focus. Sounds become clearer. Physical sensations become more noticeable. Even silence gains texture. This heightened awareness doesn't speed time up. It anchors you within it. There is also comfort in shared waiting. Waiting rooms, quiet lines, or moments of collective pause carry a sense of mutual understanding. Everyone is in the same space of not yet. This shared experience can feel grounding. reducing the sense of isolation that sometimes accompanies urgency. The brain also uses waiting as a way to reset. After periods of intense focus or stress, a pause allows neural activity to rebalance. This reset supports emotional regulation and mental clarity. Waiting, in this sense, is part of the brain's natural rhythm, not an interruption to it. Even anticipation, when gentle, can make waiting feel pleasant. Looking forward to something without pressure creates a soft emotional tone. The mind enjoys imagining what's to come without needing it to arrive immediately. This kind of waiting feels warm rather than tense. As you sit here now, listening, you are waiting in one of the safest ways possible. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to do. The waiting is contained and supported. Your brain recognizes this safety and responds accordingly, allowing the sense of time to soften. When waiting is reframed as rest, it becomes an invitation rather than an obstacle. An invitation to slow down, to let go of control, to trust that things unfold when they are ready. The nervous system responds to this trust by releasing its grip. Over time, learning to be comfortable with waiting can change how life feels. Moments between events become less stressful. Pauses are no longer empty. They become spaces where the mind can breathe. Time no longer feels like something you're losing. It feels like something you're inhabiting. There is no rule that says every moment must be filled. Nature is full of pauses. Night waits between days. Winter waits between growing seasons. These pauses are not failures. They are part of the design. When humans allow themselves similar pauses, the body recognizes something familiar and relaxing. Even now, this moment is a form of waiting. Waiting for the next thought, the next breath, the next feeling of heaviness or lightness. Nothing is late. Nothing is missing. The waiting itself is complete. As the mind rests in this understanding, the edges of time blur. There is no countdown, no deadline. Just a gentle sense of passing, of being carried forward without effort, allowing waiting to remain what it truly is when freed from pressure, a quiet space of rest, a pause that supports rather than delays, where awareness drifts easily, unhurried, within the calm stretch of moments continuing naturally on their own. Many people carry a quiet weight that follows them through the day. It shows up in small thoughts, almost whispers, telling them they should be doing more, moving faster, or using their time better. This feeling often appears during moments of rest, when nothing urgent is happening. Instead of enjoying the pause, the mind labels it as wasted time. But when you look closely, this idea of wasted time begins to soften. It turns out to be less of a truth and more of a habit the brain has learned. The brain is very good at measuring effort and reward. Over time, it starts to link time with output. If something visible or productive doesn't happen during a stretch of time, the mind assumes that time was misused. This connection feels logical, but it isn't how the brain actually works at a deeper level. Rest, reflection, and quiet moments all serve important purposes, even if they don't produce immediate results. One reason the idea of wasted time feels so strong is memory. The brain remembers outcomes more clearly than processes. When you look back on a day, you remember what you finished or accomplished, not the moments that helped you recharge along the way. Those quiet moments disappear from memory, which can make it seem like they didn't matter. But they did. They supported everything that came after them. Another gentle truth is that the brain needs unstructured time to function well. When every moment is filled with tasks or goals, the mind stays in a constant state of effort. Over time, this reduces creativity, focus, and emotional balance. Periods that look unproductive on the surface often allow the brain to make connections, solve problems quietly, and reset its emotional state. These benefits are subtle, but they are real. The idea of wasted time also comes from comparison. When we see others appearing busy or productive, our own pauses can feel unnecessary or indulgent. But what we see of others is incomplete. Everyone has moments of rest, hesitation, and stillness. We simply don't see them. Comparing visible effort to invisible rest creates a distorted picture that fuels unnecessary guilt. There is also a cultural influence at work. Many people were taught, directly or indirectly, that worth is tied to productivity. This belief sinks in slowly, becoming part of how time is judged. Moments not spent achieving something measurable feel uncomfortable. But worth doesn't rise and fall with output. Human nervous systems are not designed for constant production. They are designed for rhythm. One of the most overlooked facts about time is that it serves the body as much as it serves the mind. Resting time allows muscles to release, hormones to balance, and energy to return. These processes don't announce themselves. They happen quietly behind the scenes. Labeling this time as wasted ignores the work the body is doing to support future activity. Another reason wasted time feels so real is anticipation. When the mind is focused on what should come next, the present moment feels like an obstacle rather than a place to be. Waiting for something else to begin makes now feel less valuable. But now is where experience actually happens. The future never arrives all at once. It comes only through a series of present moments. Even boredom, often seen as the ultimate form of wasted time, has value. Boredom signals that the mind has space. In that space, imagination often begins to stir. New interests emerge. Old thoughts settle. Without boredom, creativity struggles to appear. The brain needs empty moments to explore freely. There is also a misunderstanding about efficiency. Many people believe that filling time leads to better use of it, but constantly filling time often leads to mental fatigue and shallow engagement. Slower pacing allows for deeper attention, which often leads to better outcomes, even if fewer tasks are completed. Regret about wasted time often grows strongest at night, when the mind reviews the day. In these quiet hours, small pauses can feel larger than they were. But this review process is biased. The mind looks for improvement rather than balance. Recognizing this bias can soften self-judgment and allow the day to feel more complete. The brain also needs transition time. Moving from one activity to another without pause creates stress, even if it goes unnoticed. Short moments of doing nothing help the brain shift gears smoothly. These transitions protect mental health and emotional stability. When people describe their most meaningful memories, they rarely talk about efficiency. They talk about conversations, moments of laughter, quiet mornings, or unexpected stillness. These memories often formed during times that could easily have been labeled unproductive. Meaning grows in open space, not constant motion. The idea of wasted time also ignores the fact that humans are not machines. Machines are built for output. Humans are built for experience. Experience includes rest, reflection, and moments without purpose. These moments are not empty. They are simply not goal-driven. There is a calming realization that comes with understanding this. You don't need to justify every moment. Time does not require proof of use. It moves forward whether it's filled or open. The pressure to optimize every minute is a learned habit, not a natural law. When this pressure softens, regret begins to loosen its grip. Past pauses no longer look like failures. They look like part of the natural rhythm of living. The mind becomes kinder to itself. Even now, listening quietly, you are using time in a way that may not look productive from the outside. But inside, something important is happening. Your nervous system is settling. Your thoughts are slowing. Your attention is resting. This is not wasted. It is restorative. The illusion of wasted time fades when we stop measuring moments only by what they produce. Some moments exist simply to be lived. They hold value without creating anything new. They allow the mind to recover its balance. Over time, learning to trust these moments changes how life feels. Days feel less rushed. Even busy periods feel more manageable. Time becomes a companion rather than something to chase. As the mind relaxes its grip on productivity, space opens up. Space for presence. Space for gentleness. space for being human. Time doesn't need to be defended or explained. It continues, steady and neutral, holding effort and rest with equal patience, allowing each moment to take its place without judgment as awareness drifts calmly within the flow, free from the need to label any part of it as wasted. Sleep is one of the few experiences where time seems to quietly let go of us. When you fall asleep, there is no clear sense of minutes passing, no awareness of hours moving forward. One moment you are awake, listening, thinking, noticing the weight of your body. And then, without warning or announcement, time dissolves. It doesn't stop, but your experience of it fades completely. This gentle disappearance of time is not a failure of the mind. It's one of its most natural and restorative abilities. As you begin to drift toward sleep, the brain slowly releases its need to track the outside world. During waking hours, the mind is constantly measuring duration. How long something takes, how much time is left, what comes next. But as sleep approaches, this monitoring system relaxes. The brain no longer needs to organize experience into a clear timeline. Instead, it shifts inward, allowing awareness to soften. One of the first changes that happens is in attention. Attention narrows and then loosens, moving away from external signals and toward internal sensations. Sounds fade into the background. Thoughts slow and become less structured. When attention is no longer scanning the environment for changes, time loses its reference points. Without reference points, duration becomes meaningless. This is why falling asleep often feels like slipping through a gap rather than traveling through time. Inside the brain, different regions begin to communicate in new ways as sleep begins. The areas responsible for planning, decision-making, and time tracking reduce their activity. These regions are essential during the day, but at night they step back. This shift allows the brain to enter a state where sequence and order matter less. Time, which depends on sequence, becomes less defined. Once sleep deepens, the sense of time dissolves almost completely. During deep sleep, the brain is focused on restoration. Memories are sorted. Emotional experiences are processed. The body repairs itself. These processes happen without conscious awareness. Because there is no awareness, there is no experience of time passing. 8 hours can feel like a single moment or like nothing at all. This is one of the most peaceful aspects of sleep. Time, which can feel heavy or demanding during the day, simply disappears. There is no waiting, no rushing, no counting. The mind rests outside of time's usual structure. This temporary release is deeply restorative for the nervous system. Dreaming introduces a different relationship with time. In dreams, time becomes fluid. Events can stretch, collapse, or rearrange themselves without logic. A dream that feels long may occur in just a few minutes of sleep. A lifetime can pass in a moment. This shows how flexible the brain's sense of time really is. When freed from waking rules, time becomes something the mind shapes rather than follows. During dreams, the brain creates stories without needing to anchor them to real duration. This storytelling serves emotional processing rather than chronological accuracy. The brain isn't concerned with how long something takes. It's concerned with how it feels. This emotional focus further loosens time's grip. Another important change during sleep is the reduction of memory formation. While sleep helps organize memories, it doesn't create new waking memories in the usual way. Because memories help mark the passage of time, their absence makes time feel compressed or absent altogether. When you wake up, there is often no memory of the hours that passed, only a sense that time moved quickly or not at all. The body also plays a role in this disappearance of time. During sleep, movement slows dramatically. Heart rate decreases. Breathing becomes rhythmic and steady. These slower physical rhythms give the brain fewer signals to use as markers of time. Without changes in movement or sensation, time loses its structure. Even the sense of self changes during sleep. The clear boundary between me and the world softens. Without this boundary, time loses one of its anchors. There is no observer tracking experience. There is only experience itself, unfolding without commentary. This is why sleep can feel so comforting. It offers a break not just from effort, but from duration. The pressure of past and future disappears. There is no yesterday, no tomorrow, only rest. Waking up often feels sudden because time was absent. You didn't experience the hours passing. You simply arrive in the morning. This can feel refreshing or disorienting, but it highlights how completely sleep removes us from time's usual flow. The brain needs this removal. Constant awareness of time can create stress, even when we're not aware of it. Sleep provides a daily reset, giving the mind a chance to exist without measuring or monitoring. This reset supports emotional balance and mental clarity during waking hours. Interestingly, people who struggle with sleep often report being very aware of time, watching the clock, counting hours, worrying about how much rest remains. This heightened time awareness keeps the brain alert and delays sleep. Letting go of time, even mentally, can help ease the transition into rest. This is why many sleep techniques focus on distraction or gentle imagery. They give the mind something to rest on that doesn't involve tracking duration. As time fades from focus, sleep becomes more accessible. The way time disappears in sleep is also tied to safety. The brain only allows this deep release when it feels safe enough to do so. Comfort, familiarity, and calm signals tell the nervous system it's okay to let go. This is why routines and soothing environments support sleep. They reassure the brain that nothing urgent needs attention. As you listen now, you may notice small moments where time already feels softer. Perhaps you're less aware of how long you've been listening. This is a sign that the brain is beginning to loosen its grip on duration. You don't need to push this process. It unfolds naturally. Sleep doesn't erase time. It simply places it gently to the side. Time continues to move, but you don't have to move with it. You are allowed to rest outside of it for a while. There is something deeply kind about this. The universe allows consciousness to step away from its constant tracking. The brain, which works so hard during the day, is given permission to release control. Even brief moments of drifting, like daydreaming or closing your eyes, begin to mimic this effect. Time softens. Awareness narrows. The present moment stretches quietly. As sleep draws closer, thoughts may begin to feel less connected. One idea fades before another fully forms. This loosening of mental sequence is another sign that time is dissolving. The brain is no longer organizing experience into a clear order. Eventually, even this noticing fades. The sense of listening dissolves. The sense of being here dissolves. What remains is rest, unfolding without duration, without effort, without the need to be aware of anything at all. And when morning comes, time will return gently, reassembling itself around memory and attention. But for now, it steps away, allowing the space to exist without minutes or hours, without before or after, as awareness continues to soften, and the quiet absence of time remains available, welcoming the mind and body into the kind of rest that only comes when time itself is no longer something you have to notice. As the day comes to a close, something subtle begins to happen inside the mind. The sharp edges of thought start to soften. The constant need to organize, decide, and respond slowly loosens its grip. You may notice that memories from earlier in the day begin to feel less detailed, less urgent. This isn't forgetfulness. It's a natural process of mental release, one that prepares the brain and body for rest by allowing the day to drift gently into the background. Throughout the day, the mind works hard to keep everything in order. It tracks conversations, plans movements, solves problems, and holds onto details. By evening, this system begins to wind down. The brain starts deciding what needs to be kept and what can be let go. Thoughts that once felt important begin to blur, not because they didn't matter, but because their work is done. One of the first things to change is how the brain handles attention. During the day, attention is sharp and outward focused. It scans the environment, responds to signals, and keeps track of tasks. As evening settles in, attention naturally turns inward. External details become less interesting. Internal sensations like warmth, heaviness, and breathing become more noticeable. This inward shift allows the mind to rest from constant engagement with the outside world. As attention softens, the brain reduces its use of language. Thoughts become less verbal and more image-based or emotional. Instead of clear sentences, there may be fragments, impressions, or half-formed ideas. This is not a problem to fix. It's a sign that the brain is transitioning out of its daytime mode. Language requires effort. Letting it fade conserves energy and supports relaxation. Memory also begins to change its role. Instead of actively recording new experiences, the brain starts reviewing and organizing what has already happened. This review is gentle and automatic. You might notice random moments from the day floating into awareness and then fading away. This process helps the brain decide what to store and what to release. As memories settle into place, the need to keep thinking about them disappears. Another quiet shift happens in the body. Muscles that have been subtly tense all day begin to release. You may feel heaviness in your limbs or a sense of sinking into your seat or bed. This physical relaxation sends signals back to the brain, reinforcing the message that it's safe to let go. The body and mind work together, each encouraging the other to slow down. Breathing often changes during this time as well. Without conscious effort, breaths become slower and deeper. The rhythm evens out. This slower breathing influences brain activity, calming areas involved in alertness and stimulating areas associated with rest. As breathing steadies, thoughts naturally lose momentum. One of the reasons thoughts blur in the evening is that the brain reduces its need for precision. During the day, precision helps you function. At night, precision isn't necessary. The brain allows ideas to become fuzzy, unfinished, or incomplete. This reduces mental strain and makes it easier to transition into sleep. There is also a hormonal shift that supports this process. As evening progresses, the body releases substances that encourage calm and drowsiness. These chemical changes don't force sleep. They gently lower the volume on wakefulness. Thoughts slow not because you're tired of thinking, but because the brain is being guided toward rest. Letting the day drift away also involves releasing emotional tension. Throughout the day, emotions may be managed, postponed, or set aside to focus on tasks. In the evening, those emotions often surface briefly and then fade. This release doesn't require analysis. Simply allowing feelings to pass through awareness helps clear emotional residue, making room for calm. The mind also begins to loosen its sense of time. The future feels less immediate. Tomorrow becomes abstract. The past feels softer. The present moment expands slightly, creating a feeling of spaciousness. This change in time perception supports relaxation by removing pressure. Another important aspect of this drifting is the reduction of self-evaluation. During the day, the mind often judges performance, progress, and behavior. In the evening, this evaluative voice quiets. You may notice less concern about how things went or what should have been done differently. This isn't avoidance. It's a natural pause in self-monitoring that allows the nervous system to reset. Environmental cues also play a role. Dimming light, quieter surroundings, and familiar evening routines signal the brain that it's time to slow down. These cues are powerful because they work without conscious thought. Simply being in a calm environment helps the mind release its grip on the day. There is something deeply human about this transition. Long before artificial light and busy schedules, evenings were naturally quieter. Activity slowed. Social interaction softened. Rest followed effort. The brain still recognizes this pattern and responds to it when given the chance. As thoughts blur, creativity sometimes appears in unexpected ways. Ideas may connect loosely. Images may blend. This gentle creativity isn't meant to be captured or acted on. It's a byproduct of a relaxed mind exploring freely. Allowing this exploration without engagement supports deeper rest. Another reason letting the day drift away feels comforting is that it restores balance. The brain spends the day focused outward. Evening allows it to turn inward. This balance is essential for mental health. Without it, stress accumulates and rest becomes difficult. The process of drifting doesn't require effort. In fact, trying to control it can interrupt it. The more you allow thoughts to come and go without involvement, the smoother the transition becomes. Each thought that fades on its own reinforces the sense that nothing needs attention right now. As this continues, gaps between thoughts may appear. These gaps can feel unfamiliar at first, but they are deeply restful. In these spaces, the mind is not busy. It is simply present. Time feels less structured. Awareness becomes softer. Physical sensations may also blur. The boundary between your body and the surface supporting it may feel less defined. This is another sign of the brain reducing its monitoring of the external world. Sensory input becomes less important as rest approaches. Letting the day drift away also involves trust. Trust that unfinished thoughts can wait. Trust that tomorrow will arrive on its own. Trust that rest is allowed. This trust reduces mental resistance and supports relaxation. You may notice that worries lose their sharpness during this time. Problems that felt heavy earlier now feel distant or abstract. This doesn't mean they're solved. It means the brain is giving itself permission to stop working on them for now. As awareness continues to soften, the sense of listening itself may begin to fade in and out. Sounds become part of the background rather than something to focus on. This gentle fading is a natural step towards sleep. The mind doesn't need a clear ending to the day. It doesn't need closure or resolution. It simply needs space to release. Letting thoughts blur is not losing control. It's regaining balance. Even now, as you rest with these words, the process may already be underway. Thoughts may feel slower. Images may drift in and out. There is no need to hold on to them. They can pass freely. The day, with all its activity and detail, doesn't disappear. It settles. It finds its place in memory. And as it settles, space opens up. Space where nothing needs to happen. Space where the mind can rest without effort. In this space, time feels gentle. There is no rush forward, no pull backward. Just a quiet unfolding of moments that no longer require attention, allowing awareness to continue drifting softly and naturally as the sense of the day recedes into the background and the calm rhythm of rest becomes more present with each passing breath. There comes a moment, often late at night, when effort quietly steps aside. The mind no longer tries to understand or organize. It simply notices. The room feels still. Breathing finds its own rhythm. Thoughts move more slowly, like clouds drifting across a wide sky. This moment doesn't announce itself. It arrives gently when nothing is being pushed or pulled. And inside this moment, something important becomes clear. You don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to reach the next thought. You can rest right here. For most of the day, attention is pulled forward or backward. We think about what needs to happen or what already has. But resting inside the moment is different. It's a soft return to where you already are. Not fixing the moment, not improving it, just allowing it to exist exactly as it is. This is where the mind finally gets a chance to stop working. When attention settles into the present, the brain shifts into a quieter mode. It no longer needs to predict or plan. It no longer scans for problems. Instead, it begins to synchronize with the body. Sensations become more noticeable but less demanding. The weight of your body, the warmth of the air, the gentle rise and fall of breathing. These sensations don't ask for interpretation. They simply are. Resting inside the moment doesn't mean clearing the mind. Thoughts may still appear. Memories may surface. Images may drift through awareness. But instead of following them, the mind allows them to pass. Like leaves floating on water, they move along without effort. Nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to be solved. This is one of the most natural states the human mind can enter. Children slip into it easily. Animals remain there most of the time. Adults often forget it's available. But the body remembers. When you stop trying to control experience, the nervous system recognizes safety. Muscles release. The jaw softens. Even the space behind the eyes feels more open. Time feels different here. It's no longer measured. There's no sense of how long you've been listening or how long remains. The present moment doesn't move. It simply continues. This is why rest feels timeless. You're no longer watching time pass. You're resting within it. As this continues, the boundary between listening and resting begins to blur. The words become part of the background. The meaning softens. You don't need to follow every sentence. You don't need to stay alert. Awareness drifts naturally, returning again and again to simple sensation. This state is deeply restorative because it requires no effort. The brain spends much of the day using energy to manage attention. Here, attention is allowed to rest. It's not focused. It's not scattered. It's gently open. This openness gives the mind permission to slow its internal pace. Resting inside the moment also quiets the sense of self. There's less thinking about who you are, what you've done, or what you need to do. Identity loosens. You're not performing a role. You're not meeting expectations. You're simply present. This release is subtle but powerful. Even emotions settle differently here. Feelings that may have been active earlier lose their edge. They don't disappear. They soften. Without analysis or judgment, emotions move through awareness like gentle waves. This allows emotional balance to restore itself naturally. The body responds quickly to this kind of presence. Heart rate steadies. Breathing deepens. The nervous system shifts toward rest. These changes aren't forced. They happen because the body senses there is nothing it needs to prepare for. Resting inside the moment also means letting go of progress. There's no need to move closer to sleep. Sleep arrives when it's ready. Trying to reach it only creates tension. Allowing the present moment to be complete is what opens the door. In this space, there is no failure. There is nothing missing. Even if thoughts return, even if attention wanders, the moment remains available. You can always come back to it, gently, without effort. This kind of rest doesn't require perfect conditions. It doesn't require silence or darkness or stillness. It only requires permission. Permission to stop trying. Permission to let experience unfold on its own. As the mind continues to rest here, gaps between thoughts may grow longer. Awareness may feel wider, or it may feel like nothing at all. There's no need to label what's happening. The body understands this language better than words. Eventually, the sense of listening may fade entirely. Sounds blend together. Sensations soften further. Awareness narrows gently, like a light dimming rather than switching off. This is the edge where sleep often begins. And if sleep doesn't arrive immediately, that's okay too. Resting inside the moment is still rest. The body receives what it needs simply by being allowed to settle. Before drifting further, if you find yourself enjoying these quiet journeys, you're welcome to support the channel by subscribing and gently tapping the like button. It helps this space continue to exist for those who need it. But there's nothing else you need to do right now. Just remain here, breathing, noticing, letting go. The moment holds you without effort. Time doesn't rush you forward. Thought doesn't pull you away. You are exactly where you need to be, resting inside the present, allowing awareness to soften further as the quiet rhythm continues, gently and naturally, carrying you onward without needing direction, without needing attention, as rest deepens in its own way, at its own pace, until even the idea of resting fades into the calm openness where sleep arrives on its own.